After kicking off the 2022 pre-season by handing in our spray hood for repairs, I set about replacing the broken cabin top solar panel. Then I pay a visit to our friend's rigging shop where I make all new standing rigging from Marella, replacing those 40-year-old wires and turnbuckles. Now, I really should start prepping for launch, but first, I'm off on a little adventure looking for something to help me spiffy up the galley. My name is Andy, and this is the story of one small ship. I've come down here to the docks to find a company that supposedly sells Formica. Now, I don't need much, so buying a whole board felt a little bit excessive, and hopefully they'll be able to provide me with a small piece. But even if they can't help me out, I'm glad I came down here today, because this place is just gorgeous. Formica is a type of fiberglass laminate used as a covering material for work surfaces and countertops. It's durable, very scratch resistant and long-lasting, making it a great alternative to hardwoods or veneer in cruising yachts. My introduction to Formica was from watching Paul of Just About Sailing here on YouTube, and I'll leave a link to his video discussing it down below. Well, they were really friendly people, and they were able to provide me with a piece of Formica that's about 1.5 meters squared, which is going to be perfect for me. So I'm really happy about that, but it's too big for me to transport on foot. So I'm gonna go back home and arrange for transportation, and tomorrow I'll take it down to the boat and start cutting things up. I also need to probably get some more plywood to fashion a new countertop and a new shelf for the head. Well, this spring has been kind of unfortunate so far. First of all, we had a cold snap, an epic cold snap in the end of March, which saw temperatures way below zero and lots of snow, which is very unusual for this time of year here. So I wasn't able to work a lot, especially not outside, and well, when the cold snap finally started to let up and the temperatures started to get warmer, then I managed to catch a cold, and I've been bedridden for most of last week, so I haven't got anything done, which means I'm really stressed. So there's a lot to get stuck into, but I want to start today by looking at the locker below the oven. So that would be the space in here, and I've removed all of the old trim, and I'm going to fashion a new piece and put in there and see if I can cut this old door to size and make it fit in there as well. In order to make the locker door sit flush on the new plywood panel, I need to cut little recesses for the hinges, as was done on the original piece. Now, I could do that with a chisel and a hammer, but I think it's a great opportunity to try out this routing accessory that I got for my Dremel last year. Well, that looks pretty good, I think. I need to put a little piece of teak trim here to hide the lamination of the plywood. I'm going to drill a hole here to open up so I can put a latch in there. And of course, I still need to cut the actual hole, which is going to be the locker, so you can access this area. But cutting out the recesses for the hinges with that Dremel routing accessory was not a huge success. In the end, I did get this routed out, and it does work, but it's really not very good. It's so spongy and flexes a lot, and you can't get the depth setting very exact. So I think it's more toy than tool. Every year, like clockwork, it seems this place turns into a construction yard, and 2022 is no exception. So when I came down here this morning, I spent some time tidying up, and now I'm going to get back to working on the galley. The local lumberyard have apparently run out of plywood, so I'm currently blocked from working on the new countertops for the galley and head. But they assure me that a big shipment of sapele is coming in next week, so hopefully I'll be able to get back to it by then. But my first task for today is to measure out and cut the opening for the locker below the oven. The locker door will be secured with one of these spring latches. You just stick your finger in and you pull the latch and the door releases. And I think I have the right screw for this, so I want to be very careful here because this hole is so close to that edge. I'm afraid I'm gonna split the wood. I also don't want to drill through it. And now we want to put this ring in there. Well, on the other side, obviously, but you get the idea. Well, that's the locker door and hinge pretty much done. I have started working on some trim for this area, and that's going to happen next. But I'm going to cut today short and head home because it's Easter and we have some family celebrations to get to. So I'm going to get back to this on Monday, and until then, I wish you all happy holidays. I'm back from Easter celebrations and the weather really is amazing today. The plywood I was promised hasn't actually arrived yet. I'm hoping it'll happen later this week, but until then I'm sort of blocked from working on the projects inside the boat. So I'm going to take advantage of this great weather and get back to the cabin roof situation. Before I left for Easter, I came down here and quickly drilled out and filled all the old screw holes for the spray hood rail with epoxy. And that's very cured now, so I'm just going to sand it down and prepare to put the spray hood back on. I handed it into the canvas shop 3 weeks ago, so it should be ready within a few days. I sanded down the epoxy and gave this area a light polish. So now I could put the rail back and bed it down with butyl tape. But before I do that, I want to take a look at cleaning the hatch cover and the hatch itself, because they are rather dirty. And then we can put everything back together and take a look at permanently mounting the solar panel. Well, I took apart the hatch and hatch cover and gave them a good scrubbing, and I think it came out quite all right. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything stopping me from putting everything back together now, so I'm going to do that. The discoloration here is better than it was, but it's not perfect. But I'm going to have to live with that, and at some point I guess we'll have to take it apart and paint this. But for now, it'll do. A couple of days ago, I took these home and gave these a nice polish as well. These are the brass bars that sit here and hold the hatch down when it's open. And yeah, I think they came out really well, so I'm going to mount those back as well.
Pretty high on our wish list from last summer is an extra step on the transom to help with access to the swim platform. But it's a two-person job to install, so that evening Lena comes down to help me out.
I should probably just, yeah. What was that about measure twice, cut once, something? I remember reading about that somewhere, sometime. So that's 6 3/4 inches. Yeah, this whole transom is kind of wavy. Oh dear. There are no straight angles on boats. So hopefully I won't be drilling a hole in the diesel heater when I hit the other side. Or worse, the exhaust. Oh, there we go. Well, now I'm definitely through. Okay, so now we need to figure out where these holes are on the inside. I love climbing into the aft locker. It's my favourite pastime. Oh, God. All right. I hope I can make it out again. Okay, so there's one hole right next to the exhaust, to the heater exhaust. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, yeah, I've got that one. Where's the other one? Oh, it's over there. I see it. Ugh. Oof. Well, I've got the bolts in, but I need to figure out the incline or the angle of the ladder or the step. How about that? Can you look from the side and tell me if that's... Yeah, we need one shim, right? You can't... Without the shim, it goes like that. Do we need 2 shims? Because with 2 shims, it'll be like this. But that's too much, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, and we're going to need to be 2 people about this, I think. You're going to have to help me out on the outside, so... Yeah, all right. All right. God. It's the 3rd time today I've been down this hole. Oh, it's always so much fun. Oh, God. Oh, my body is not made for this. Just relax. Pretend it's some sort of weird spa experience. This is, God. In my next life, I'll be a contortionist. Well, a lot has happened over the last week. Sadly, not much down here at the boatyard. The non-boating part of my life took over for a bit. But I'm back here now and things are happening rather fast. Today is Tuesday and Friday is splash day, and that means I have to clean and polish the hull, seal an anti-foul and prepare the mast for stepping all before then. And that's on top of all the other projects I'm working on. Most of that can continue when Marella is back at her berth, but there is one or two things that really need to be done while we're still on the hard. I'll get back to that in a minute, but first I just want to quickly mention the new lifelines which I was able to get made. Thanks again to the lovely Viking Yachting, Chandlery and Rigging shop here in Gothenburg. They were able to let me in their shop for a few hours last week so that I could make these up, and I really think they came out great. I've also glued in some trim in the area below the oven, and I think it came out good enough. There is still more work to be done in the galley, but I'm going to have to put that off until after splashing. One thing which I haven't mentioned much this season is the head rebuild from last year. There's actually more work to be done there as well. It's not quite finished yet, but I'm going to have to put that off until after splashing as well. Now, returning to what needs to be done before we put Marella back in the Great Blue, like I said, there's polish and anti-fouling, but really nothing major below the waterline. All of the valves and through hulls were replaced last year, and the hull I epoxied over is looking very good, so I'm confident the boat will be watertight. But there is one thing that's been nagging at me since last year, and that is the dinghy that we towed around all last summer. Don't get me wrong, it's a great dinghy and it's a great addition to a family cruiser, but towing it around like that was really not optimal. I had to drag it out of the water several times and scrape off growth and clean it, and I knew pretty early on that I wanted a solution where we could store it out of the water. There are a million different ways of storing a dinghy on board. Deflating it and storing it on deck or down below works well for longer passages, and storing it on top of the foredeck, inflated, can work too. Some people lift the dinghy up in a halyard and hang it off the side of the boat, and that works great while at anchor, but maybe not so well when underway. Then there are several ways of storing a dinghy on the transom. Traditional davit cranes are great, but maybe not a good fit for a smaller yacht like Marella. Just pulling the dinghy out and putting it on top of the swim platform can work as well, but I tried that for a few weeks last year, and I couldn't quite get it to stop twisting and chafing against one thing or another, and when the wind picked up, it was really feeling a little bit iffy. Then there's a product called snap davits, which is made and sold by a few different companies. The idea is you put a couple of hooks on the swim platform or on the transom, and the dinghy hooks with its side into the davits, and you lift the outboard side up. I really like the idea of the snap davits, but they were a bit expensive for what you get, and I was considering making my own DIY solution of those. And so I posted in one of the many sailing forums that I frequent to see if I could get some input from other people and maybe some ideas. Anyway, long story short, my post apparently attracted the attention of a company who make a product called Dinghy rings. Now, I want to be absolutely clear that we received this product for free with a promise to return them if we are not satisfied with them. So we're going to mount the dinghy rings on the swim platform, and we're going to spend a few weeks this summer evaluating them, and you will get our honest take on them. This came very unexpected, and I'm not sure how to approach this type of sponsored content, but I want to be absolutely 100% transparent about it. It is an opportunity for us to try out a product we otherwise wouldn't have experienced, and considering it seems tailor-made for Marella's size and style, I look forward to seeing how it goes. Well, here they are, the Dinghy Rings Slim. Let's get this open, shall we? It doesn't look very complicated, and they're supposed to go on the swim platform, so let's head out there and see if we can put them on. The whole thing is very simple. There's a piece of stainless pipe that runs the width of the platform underneath the swim platform, which is mounted on these brackets, which are screwed together or held together by bolts, and you tighten the bolts, which holds the pipe in place. Hopefully that'll be enough force to keep it in place there for many years, but I assume we'll have to just inspect and make sure that these are fairly well tightened down at regular intervals, but that should be fine. So what I need to do then is just find where to drill holes for these brackets and mount them from the underside, and then the rings go inside this pipe, one ring on each end, and the dinghy backs into the rings with the pontoons stuck in the rings. You lift the dinghy up. So I'm just going to measure out where to drill holes for the brackets, and we'll fasten them down underneath with carriage bolts running through all the way to the top, which means there will be 4 more carriage bolt heads showing on the swim platform, but that's fine. These came with 4 M6 carriage bolts, so I assume those will be beefy enough, which means we'll drill a 6mm hole. Well, I think that's about all I can do until we get the dinghy down here and I can try to put the rings in and all that. I'm going to read the instructions one more time, read careful to make sure that I haven't missed a step. But yeah, they're on there now, and it seems solid enough. So I think we're ready for splash day. At least this is. Now I just need to get on with the hull.
Well, it's almost time to launch again, and I'm already juggling a heap of projects. Between the planned galley rebuild, the new solar panel, and making new standing rigging, it's been enough to do already, but there are more things begging for my attention, and finding time for everything might just be my greatest challenge yet. If you enjoyed this episode, you can help us out by leaving a like. It really does make a big difference. And press subscribe and hit the notification bell to follow us on our journey. You can also follow us on social media. Check out the links below for that. And thank you so much for watching. Fair winds.